Welcome to Story Comic Presents, where we interview amazing storytellers and artists. This is episode 407. I'm your host, Barney Smith of StoryComic.com, and we're excited to have with us the acclaimed and internationally celebrated author of A Dragon in You, Mariah Dawn. Mariah.
Hello. Hi, happy to be here.
Yeah, how's it going?
It's going great, yeah.
See, which is good, because I believe, because you, as we say, you're in California. And we usually record this, in the early evenings here in Vermont. And I'm just going to take a guess because you're 4 hours ahead and you're south of Vermont, that it is not pitch black outside like it is right here for me.
We have sunshine for probably another hour and a half.
Okay.
Yeah. It's very nice.
Yeah. So you came to us because you had a book that came out as of this recording. You're gonna be celebrating its second month anniversary. So or because anniversary is Latin for Annie, and then mense is Latin for month. So your second mensiversary would probably be, more, as an author,
go with that.
With all the grammar. So Mariah, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, I'm Mariah. I'm 32 years old, and when I tell people that I've written a memoir, they ask how? And so we'll definitely, you can read all about it, but I feel like I've lived a very full life. I grew up Mormon. When I was 19, I met my late husband, who I was already having kind of questions about spirituality and kind of expanding my knowledge of what the Mormon belief had. So we kind of veered off and would still attend church, but kind of started developing our own beliefs, I guess. But I still stayed in the church until I was about 28 years old, maybe 26. And through that, my husband, he served 14 years in the military, and we traveled different states. The coldest I got was Easton, Pennsylvania. So that was, I do know what cold is, even though I'm in San Diego. But we have two beautiful children together. They're 8 and 6 right now, a boy and a girl. And 3 years ago, my husband suffered from PTSD, and that ended up taking his life. So.
And so you have such a powerful and personal memoir. Can you share kind of what inspired you to actually decide to write the book, and why did you feel it was kind of like the right time to tell your story?
Sure. I could go 1,000 different directions with that. So I'll just kind of give the bare bones, which is my husband, like I said, he suffered. We all have our own traumas, but he became increasingly more volatile when we were living with him. And it eventually, got to the point where the doctors told me that I had what's called it was like dementia-like symptoms. And I was so disassociated from my body that when I ended up separating from him in 2020, I really had to rebuild my life and come to terms with, the marriage that didn't work out. And then all of the psychological things that happened within those 10 years that we were together. And in 2020, I just opened up my laptop and I started writing. So I started from, birth and then to that year. And I was getting these panic attacks that were so crippling that I couldn't, I would stop functioning from them, and I couldn't function, or I had to function when I had 2 small children. They were 18 months old and 4 years old at the time. So writing it out, it was like creating a map of my life. And instead of feeling like everything happened in the span of like a month, I realized it was, these 32 years of my life. So it honestly started as a journal. And then it was like May this year, I approached someone at my church and I kind of told them about this big document of 164 pages. And they told me I had a book. So I started down the route of getting it professionally edited and a cover and publishing.
And so, you write about your experience living with your partner and also navigating his PTSD and addiction. What was the turning point that gave you the courage to leave, and how did it feel to take that step?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like definitely trigger warnings for people. Abuse doesn't ever just start at the end, right? It starts kind of from the beginning. And over the course of the 10 years, he increasingly got more like physically violent with me. And there was a moment where he did try to take my life. And I did end up like getting out and kind of escaping out the back door. And I told him, like, he told me if I ever left him that he would kill me. And I believed him. And this was the 4 years before I left. Was this was the narrative that in the house that I was living under. And then in that moment, I knew, well, I'm either going to die here or maybe I'll get a few more months if I leave. And I just looked into my baby's eyes and I was like, I can't, you know, I have to do everything I can to protect you. And it moved from protecting them to eventually, learning to love myself again. But um, when I did leave, he did actually give us permission. It wasn't a, middle of the night or while he was at work. I sat down and I told him, this is not who you are. This is not the legacy you want. And he actually allowed us to walk out of the door in Easton.
So, advocating for your husband, even after leaving the relationship, uh, is is a remarkable act of love and strength. Uh, so, what motivated you to continue supporting him despite the pain and challenges that you faced?
I feel like I have a very interesting perspective because when I first left, I was advocating by reaching out to his command, telling them, he needs help. I would never would say any trigger words that would start an investigation because he was afraid of things affecting his work. I was afraid of him losing his job for his mental health, if that was another thing that was taken away from him. And when you're watching someone you love just decline and decline and decline, um, I always saw that man that I married, and that was kind of the reason why it prolonged 10 years. But um, in the end, I couldn't watch or be a part of someone, actively hurting someone. Even if it was like towards me, I wasn't going to like or perpetuate that. And then there's a lot of controversy with the book because he's not allowed, or he's not here to defend himself. He's not here to tell his story. And something that I've tried to really tell people is that I am advocating for him by releasing all of our skeletons in the closet and explaining my codependency and how I operated, even though it's through the lens of, maybe things that he said or did or interactions. I actually feel like that is advocating for him by um, by allowing our story to not only be like kind of like a learning lesson, but also to give you an inside look on what's happening in all across America.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but um, was it deliberate to launch your book in October? Because October is also Domestic Violence Awareness Month.
So October 5th was the 3-year anniversary of when he passed.
Hmm.
And when I approached the person at church, it was May. And I kind of had said, well, I think maybe like the 3-year anniversary would be a nice time. I didn't really think about it being Domestic Violence Month, but it definitely kind of fit in with the
Yeah.
theme. Yeah.
And what insights do you hope to share with military families who might be going through some similar challenges?
I think that you're not alone, that
Mm.
we're sending soldiers over to protect our country, and that's like outstanding, right? Like I he went, but I sent my husband, he was deployed while we were together and while we had small children, and sacrificing his life for us. He did go to combat. He went to Kuwait and Iraq. And when he came home, he was trying to like process all that and reintegrate himself. And I always find it, interesting, or I get kind of stuck in a loop when I'm like, we send our soldiers to protect the women and children, and then we put them back into a house with women and children and who love them so much. And I'm not a psychologist. I'm not trained in that reintegration. And there's such a disconnect, in my opinion, or at least what I experienced, in helping these soldiers come home.
My next question then is, like, mental health and PTSD are often under discussed topics in the context of domestic violence. How do you think these factors complicate the journey of survivors and their families then?
The biggest complication is that this is the person that you love. So
Mm,
I kept waiting for him to have another lucid moment. And I never wanted to be the person who said, okay, go figure it out by yourself, when they couldn't figure it out. So for me, the biggest complication was trying to, like I said, advocate for him while keeping my distance and not going back, because
mm.
there's a lot of statistics out there. It takes a lot of it's like 3 times of leaving and coming back and leaving and coming back. So for me, it was that drawing that line of keeping myself safe while trying to help him.
Well, hey there. If you're enjoying our podcast, don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or leave us a 5-star review on your favorite podcast platform. Your support means the world to us and helps us keep this show going. We love hearing from you, so any feedback is welcome. And thank you for being a part of our podcast family and for all your support. It truly means a lot to us. And then you say this is a memoir. You're in your early 30s and you've already written a memoir, and we're talking about a piece of your life here. And but you also have a section in your book too where you talk about some of your faith and spirituality as well. So leaving the Mormon Church was a pivotal part of this healing journey. Um, what are, can you describe a little bit of some of the spiritual struggles you faced and how you kind of redefined your faith?
Absolutely. So I left, I would say officially, about the time I separated from my husband, and we were living in Pennsylvania, and it was about a 32, 34-hour drive to San Diego. And I remember I was on the freeway, and the rain was actually, in West Virginia, was coming down so hard that I couldn't see anything. It was just basically like a fire hose on the windshield. And I remember driving, and in my head, I thought, this is my parting of the Red Sea. Like, this is
Mm,
my, this is my miracle, is that I'm out alive and I got my 2 children in the back seat. But then, 20 minutes later, I was cursing God, and I was like, how could you do this to us? Like, my family is broken. My children don't have, the unit is broken now, or at least physically, because it, of course, was mentally before. And I spent so many years so angry, and then when my husband died, the anger just, tenfold on, my children don't get a dad anymore. There's no, like, how could he have no hope, and how can I have hope in God? And I really, really hit rock bottom. And I ended up going to a support group for widows. And I remember walking in, and they they were singing the songs like, Jesus, thank you, Jesus. And I was like, if they say Jesus one more time, I'm out of here. I can't, I was so hurt. And the speaker got up there, and he said, he was a fellow widower, and he said, I've given this speech about my journey so many places, but this is the first place where I'm in a room full of widows, and instead of the air being sucked out, you can all say, I know. And I remember I went from this very angry state to like, okay, like you want to get up there and talk about God and be authentic, like I'll listen, I'll give you a minute, right? And he kind of gives his story, which is I've heard a few times now. And there's aspects of it that kind of mirror mine, not in any domestic violent way. But I left there and it was this first little inkling of like maybe there's something. Like I felt like I met somebody who talked about God in a way that I wanted God to be. And then I ended up one day I was again this anger that I carried inside of me. I was yelling at my husband, Michael, obviously not there, and I was like, how dare you, like you make this right, you did this to us, all of the things, right? Just like loathing and this self-pity. And I heard this voice that said, you're mad at the wrong person, he's not going to fix it. And I kind of was like, all right, God, like you give me peace and I'll do what you want to do. Like just give me, like just take this anger inside of me and give me peace. So I felt the anger lifted. It was maybe a minute or so, but I had that resounding peace that people talk about. And once I turned that over to like, this is bigger than me, this is not about me, like this is about me and my relationship with a higher power, that peace has never left.
And it's amazing because of this spiritual rediscovery. It's kind of added to your view of resilience and hope as well. Then
100%. Yeah. I mean, when I first left my husband, the best that I could do was like chair yoga. I was showering maybe every 4 days. And then after he passed, like I was showing up for my children and that was it. And then having something bigger than me, like you said, like that resilience of being able to do something outside of myself.
when you put this book together, what did you learn about yourself while you were putting this book together?
Well, one, I always liked to write. I never thought that I would write a book. That was not, I didn't have like a secret stash of poetry or, like some essays written. But I learned that when you give something, like for me, the morals and the values that I wanted were to help other people and to kind of process what I had gone through. And then God kind of came in and he allowed me to have the values that I wanted into book form. So yeah, I think I just learned that, I don't know. That's a good question, but yeah, just to like give it up. That I actually, okay, I do know the answer. A lot of people say that I'm very brave for saying everything that happened, and what I learned is that I'm going to be the most authentic version of myself, and that there should be nothing in my past or my thoughts that I should be ashamed of. And I kind of like coined the own name for myself of like a keyboard tattletale. And the reason for that is just that I'm going to live a life where I can show up and as long as my intentions are good, I can move from that place instead of shame.
Hmm. And what advice would you give other first-time authors that might be thinking about writing a memoir?
I only know kind of from my experience, but that was just open up the Word document. And then I went by years. So I did every single year, and then I kind of moved it into months. And I would say everybody has a story, so yours is worth telling. Um, there's somebody out there who needs to hear that story, and if you're feeling this draw to write it, then that's even more true. So don't give yourself a timeline. This took 4 years from the document being opened to being held in my hand. And there's people out there to help you. There's somebody who's excited. You'll have to sift, you'll have to find, but the people who will come together and the community that you will find through the avenue of your story and other people who've gone through similar things is by far the best thing I've ever done.
Oh, and I know the book came out only 2 months ago, and there is something pretty exciting about holding your own book in your hand. Has this kind of sparked anything else for you to work on any other writing endeavors that you might be planning to pursue now?
I started a blog. I only have like 3 posts on it right now, but I would love to do public speaking or to kind of do more podcasts like this, get just in front of people who want to have this conversation. That for me, not only is healing for me, but like then I get to meet new people and hear their stories and like I said, build that community. So down at the very bottom, there is social media. There's a contact form, and then I am doing a weekly like mailing list.
Okay.
Yeah, and then on the website also there's
And
a contact form, and then there's the about me section,
yeah,
and then there's like a tip sheet that will give you the things that I can talk about.
excellent. And yeah, right on there, engagements and whatnot, and you can buy the
Mhm.
book there as well. So the website that Mariah is referring to for all of you audio listeners, it's thedragoninu.com. And on there you'll see options for you to purchase the book, learn more about Mariah, and read her blog too. So yeah, there it is. Well, Mariah, this has been an amazing conversation with you, and I look forward to seeing reading your new book.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know about like the whole new book, maybe a collaboration of blog posts, but
Yeah,
this I explain the book process a lot. I know, like, men won't understand, but it's like giving birth, where I'm looking at a book and I'm like, oh, that was easy. But during it, just the whole thing was, every aspect of everything was completely consumed with bringing it to
right.
fruition. So,
Well, and it's good because you could have a sequel called "The Unicorn in You" and about how everybody's unique and special. See.
oh, yeah. Well, I'd be stealing a lot of people's thunder because that's a very hot topic right now.
Good for you. Well, thank you so much, Mariah.
Yeah, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
So I don't know how if you know notice like in my other interviews I always have like a B-roll at the end of the interview. Like at the end of it there's always just like some kind of like leftovers pieces, like if I messed up on something or this or that. But so this is why I like to record now, just in case something like amazing happens.
I
um
like it. Yeah.
so what is your so looking at your thing, so I got to change the color we have.